I mean, the first time I conceived of the 3 degrees of change course, that small change that might have a big impact, I was doing some work on the Isle of Man with a guy called Graham Clucas, and he'd set up a charity called Quing, and they were a recovery community on the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man described themselves as 80,000 alcoholics clinging to a rock. You know, that's what they say about themselves. And he set up, and they've got very clinical services there. And he set up this recovery community called Quing, and he got real stick from everyone. I mean, he had a lot of supporters, but a lot of the, if you like, the established treatment professionals were absent. They didn't come to any conferences. They didn't do anything. And Cormac Russell was speaking, but he was delayed. Something had happened, and he was going to come on a later flight. And so I was asked the night before, can you do something for Cormac's slot? You know, be like a bit of a warm-up act until he gets here. And I said to Graham, what I'm going to talk about, we came up between us actually with this 3 degrees of change. And I said, the Isle of Man system, in order to incorporate recovery effectively, just needs to change a little bit. They just need to let you in and let you have some space within the system. And then it will radically change the system. But it won't be a revolution. It will be a small change, which over time, you know, if you put a magnet next to a compass and you set off on your ship, you know, you've gone from true north to magnetic north. And over time, you'll go miles off. And I said to him, you know, I'm just going to use that as a concept and talk a little bit about how the Isle of Man system can go from, you know, true north to magnetic north, that small change. And over time, it'll develop a more sustainable system, actually. Anyway, I gave the talk. But I went there a few years on the trot. You know, I worked with Graham quite a bit. And sadly, the system never let him in. The system is as it was. Graham's left. He's currently in the UK. That was the other thing. I called the UK the mainland when I was on the Isle of Man, and that people kicked off. They said, no, it's not the mainland. It's the adjacent authority.
Yeah.
we're independent from them. And I said, yeah, you're independent until someone tries to invade you, and then you'll be crying for help. But yeah, that, as far as I know, that recovery community hasn't got the visibility and the resources that it would have had, and so it's kind of gone underground a little bit on the Isle of Man now. It's not running in the way that it was hoping to run and to flourish. And I think that's the other side of, I guess, the other side of the coin of some of the positives that we're talking about is sometimes that the recovery communities are not as easily sustainable as their treatment counterparts because they don't have contracts and they don't have lots of money.
Yeah.
But those negatives can be positives as well. You know, there are some negatives that have value. So the fact that I've gone through addiction is a negative. It's potentially a weakness, but it also has real value because I've got through the other side, and I've got information and abilities that I can share with others, and support that I can give them. You know, you might get someone who has a real positive upbringing. They had everything they ever needed. They were given everything they ever wanted. And then they arrive in adulthood, and the first time that they're hit with a real life problem, they realize, I'm not resilient. I don't know how to cope with this. And, you know, so there are, you know, I do worry about our sustainability. But what I also what I say to myself is, well, the only thing that you have to sustain is yourself. You know, if the organization comes and goes, that's a different thing, but you still remain, you still can support people, you still can be visible if you want to be. And so I try and, I try and hold it lightly. So I'm not, I know that we're all only 2 or 3 bad decisions away from real difficulty. And so I hold the towards recovery stuff lightly. And I think to myself, okay, you do what you can while you can. And hopefully you invest in enough other people that they get infected with recovery as well. And they want to do some of the things that you're doing. And in that sense, you multiply, but you don't necessarily multiply organizationally. It's not pounds, shillings and pence. We do a lot with a little. I think with the £10,000 turnover that we have, and even that seems like a lot, we probably do anything between £100,000 to £250,000 worth of work, in the world sense. But we do it in a gift economy. One of our.
Sorry, go on.
Go on. No, it's okay.
Yeah, but if you think about the longest sustaining recovery initiative is not one that was highly financed, and that's AA and NA.
Yeah, absolutely.